Hi everybody and welcome into another edition of the SunDevilSource Postgame Show. I'm Ethan Tuttle, joined alongside Chris Cartman as always. We're here at Mountain America Stadium following Arizona State's 49-13 loss to the number 6 ranked Oregon Ducks. Chris, for the Sun Devils, it was their worst first half performance in modern era history. Because of that, they dropped to 3-8 overall and 2-6 in conference play. What did you take away from that first half in this football game?
It went as bad as you could possibly have a game go, just about. Outside of not having turnovers, Oregon had the ball 6 times and scored six touchdowns. Bo Nix, 6 passing touchdowns and a half. Never seen that before. Definitely the biggest butt kicking that we've seen in a half at Sun Devil Stadium in decades, maybe in history. We knew going in that this was an extraordinarily difficult opponent for ASU to play, and that it was going to be almost impossible for them to win. But then in all these kind of ways, they had a poor performance, and the game got so lopsided quickly that I think everyone at that point was just kind of playing it out, and second half seemed like almost an irrelevant thing.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of things played into this loss. We talked earlier in the week on the premium podcast that previewed Oregon, this matchup this week in Mountain America Stadium, and we talked about what the Sun Devils had to do to have success in just certain areas of the game, like getting off the field on third downs, limiting turnovers, and just playing solid football all around. How do you think they stacked up compared to what we were talking about earlier on in the week with them having to accomplish those goals?
Yeah, I tweeted the 5 things. You got to win the turnover margin. You have to get off the field in your opportunities and or turn Oregon over on 4th downs where they go for it. You have to turn all your scoring opportunity drives into points, and you have to turn their red zone opportunities into field goals or no points, and you can't give up big plays. So literally, they failed in all of them. Big plays. Bo Nix throwing the ball all over the field. Every single drive that they had was a touchdown. In the first half, 6 touchdowns. They did get Oregon into a 3rd and 11 on the first drive. They converted it, and then they scored. Second drive, they had 2 4th downs that they converted and then scored. So and then ASU did a poor job tackling, preventing some of these long runs after the catch on some short opportunities and the bigger plays down the field. Oregon is great. I said Oregon is a better team than Washington and a tougher team to play. Washington, of course, is much more passing heavy. Couldn't run the ball that well. Oregon, you can't really do anything because they're either going to run you over, or you can kind of play zone and hang back, and then they're going to pick you apart. They decided to try to play kind of aggressive. They weren't able to get to Bo Nix. He made adjustments. For my money, he might be the Heisman frontrunner from what I've seen this year, and ASU is just not even in the same realm. And by the way, Kenny Dillingham coached for Oregon last year as the team's OC, so it's not like he doesn't understand what that looks like and he hasn't been a part of something like that. He very much is. And what he's trying to do with ASU, they don't have. It's just they want to do the same things. They don't have the players with their injuries, their quarterback situation in particular being what they are, to enable that to happen right now.
Talking about the defense for the Sun Devils tonight, a lot of man-to-man coverage. Coach Kenny Dillingham said in the post-game press conference that Bo Nix threw the deep ball probably better than I think he's ever seen him throw. So just thoughts on the defensive performance, where they got gashed, and how they can improve moving forward.
They've had a very good performance, I would say, overall in the secondary, especially in conference play, going up against some of these big-time quarterbacks, the Michael Penix from Washington, Caleb Williams, Colorado, Sanders. And in this game, they lost the one-on-one matchups. They got beaten down the field, and some of them had good coverage. The one against D Ford, for example, was good coverage. Franklin's a great player, he comes up with the ball. And some of these others, they had breakdowns. Their leverage wasn't good. They had a number 2 receiver has a slant, and it's wide open. I felt like Ro Torrance had his worst game since maybe one of the first couple games of the season. That was part of it. Ed Woods didn't necessarily play that well. Then you had the missed tackles that were a huge part of it. Shamari Simmons, I think he's done quite well, but tonight he missed some really highlight tackles in space that led to some big opportunities, and also down the field. ASU couldn't get to the quarterback, and it's a very difficult thing because Brian Ward's aggressive and he wants to bring a lot of 5- and 6-man pressures with these blitzes behind it. But when you can't get there and the quarterback is so good at getting the ball out hot, Bo Nix completed 83% of his passes. It's almost like, what are you going to do if they're going to be able to hit on those big plays and one-on-one opportunities?
Yeah, so the team's trailing 42-0 at half. Coach Dillingham urges, let's go win the second half. And the offense comes out and they're able to accomplish that. Obviously, a completely different game after the first, 40 minutes, or 30 minutes, excuse me. But just your thoughts on the offensive performance and how the Sun Devils have been continually having to adapt week in and week out.
Look, I mean, Bo Nix was out of the game before the third quarter, well before the third quarter even ended. I think everybody kind of knew it. The game was over. And they were sort of playing it out. Now, yes, ASU continued to go out there and play. Oregon didn't score in the third quarter, and ASU had some, did some things, on both sides of the ball, got an interception, got a touchdown, kicked a field goal after Longhetto missed a field goal earlier in the first half. Okay, they're continuing to play. Oh, great. But Oregon foot was way off the gas by that point, and they are just kind of playing it out. And this... ASU's had mostly good defensive performances under Brian Ward, but Utah and Oregon were extremely poor on the defensive side of the ball in different ways. Utah had 300 and something yards rushing and just ran the ball over ASU. And tonight, Bo Nix threw for 380 something yards in the first half of 444 passing yards in the first half. And but I don't necessarily fault the approach that ASU took. I just think that they're so good, and ASU offensively can't keep pace or do anything. And there were some the missed tackles. It was not what we've seen from this team throughout the year. They've been a pretty good tackling team. They've been a good team for the most part in coverage on the back end, outside of a little bit early on that they were trying to iron out. So to me, this was more just sort of how great that Oregon was, and ASU isn't nearly on that threshold, and the game went completely lopsided early, which then probably made it worse.
So following the loss, where do you judge the team right now with one game left in the season? Arizona's still on the way, but what does the team take from this performance?
Dillingham said after the game something that was really important that we asked Deshaun Mallory about as well, which is about culture. And he said that at Oregon, Lanning is carried over the things that they had done with Mario Cristobal, where they really developed big, strong dudes in the trenches. They were focused on that being an emphasis. And that's sort of what football redounds to in a lot of ways, is if you can physically dominate the opponent at the point of attack and you have good quarterback play and good athletes, that's the whole ball of wax. And ASU, he acknowledges, not remotely close to being in that realm yet. And on top of that, they've had injuries and they can't do a lot of the things that they want to do. So ASU is very far away, and they've seen the examples of what good teams look like this season. And they're going to have a successful stint in the transfer portal. They're going to have to retain all their best players, and they're going to have to get a lot bigger, stronger, and faster in the offseason. And that isn't even probably going to get them to where Oregon is right now within another year. But I don't see Dillingham going anywhere over the next few years, or we're just going to have to sort of track how that the program develops in the coming years. This is the reality of it. I mean, here's a good example. I thought Jed Fish was not a good hire in Arizona. They were 1-11 their first year. Last year they had a losing record. This year they're now 8 wins. And he's done a very good job. They built it over a couple years, transfer portal, developing their players and building. ASU should be able to do something similar under Dillingham if it gets the buy-in and the focused attention from the players that would lead to it.
49-13, the final here at Mountain America Stadium. Chris, thank you so much as always, and thank you to the viewers as well. We've got Arizona coming up next. SunDevilSource will have all the coverage. Until then, he's Chris Cartman. I'm Ethan Tuttle saying so long. We'll see you next time.